This moment reminds us we are not strangers separated by sea, but family reunited and bonded by history, heritage, and resilience. And so it is with deep pride we now prepare to reveal the lineage that connects the Prime Minister to his ancestral country, an ethnic group in Africa. Let this moment echo beyond the walls. Africa and the Caribbean are one. And so I will be the judge. I will open the envelope. In the case of Dickon Mitchell. Are you ready to welcome him home? In the case of the Honorable Dickon Mitchell, it says, welcome to the African Ancestry family. African Ancestry hereby certifies that Dickon Mitchell shares maternal genetic ancestry with Akan people living in Ghana.
My people, you ever meet someone and get that feeling that he is one of your people? You know, like you can't explain it, but their whole vibe just screams, yeah, you might be family members, right? Like distant cousins or something. Well, listen, when I first saw Prime Minister Dickon Mitchell of Grenada, the poise, the fire, the confidence, I knew there was something special about him. I couldn't quite put my finger on it until now. Because guess what? Dickon Mitchell just took a DNA test and it turns out he's 100% Akan, one of the largest and most influential ethnic groups located primarily in Ghana, but also in parts of Ivory Coast and Togo. Yeah, so yes, the man is one of my people and possibly a distant family member, as I had suspected. The bloodline is intact, the ancestors are smiling, and I am claiming him like that cousin who just found the family WhatsApp group, okay? But guys, this is bigger than just vibes and DNA, okay? Today on The Breakdown, we're unpacking this powerful rediscovery. Who is Prime Minister Dickon Mitchell? Who are the Akan people? And what does it mean when the children of the diaspora find their way back? Not just physically, but spiritually and politically. Because this isn't just a personal revelation. It's a political act, a cultural reset, and a reminder the transatlantic bridge between Africa and the Caribbean isn't broken. It's just been waiting to be walked. We're going to break it down, but first, thank you to all of our new subscribers and members. And if you haven't joined us yet, please hit subscribe and tap the alert so you never miss a new release from us. And if you enjoyed this episode, don't just keep it to yourself. Leave a comment, share with your group chats, and drop a super thanks to support our channel. Also, follow me on socials at Sandra Babu-Boateng, and let's stay connected. All right, now, let's get into it. Let's start with the man at the center of this moment. Dickon Mitchell made history in 2022 when he was elected Prime Minister of Grenada, a small island nation in the Caribbean with a population of just over 100,000. At just 44 years old, he represented a generational shift, a departure from the old guard, and a move toward youth, reform, and accountability. He's a trained lawyer, educated in the Caribbean, and deeply rooted in his people. But he's also globally aware, sharp, bold, and ready to lead Grenada into a new era. And at the recent Afri-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum hosted right in Grenada, Prime Minister Dickon Mitchell didn't just shake hands, pose for photos, or talk trade deals. He did something far more personal. He took a DNA test and announced the results publicly at the forum. The verdict? His roots trace directly back to the Akan people of Ghana. Now, let's pause right there because that's not just a result, okay? That's a reconnection. It's one thing to imagine where your ancestors came from, and it's another thing to know with certainty who you are, to be able to stand on the soil that they walked, to hear the language they spoke, to realize that the very blood that runs through your veins once ran through royal courts, warrior clans, and freedom fighters on the Gold Coast of Africa. That's what Dickon Mitchell just unlocked. Now let's talk about Grenada for a moment. Grenada, like many African nations, is full of descendants of Africans who were stolen from the continent and forced into slavery. But here's what's incredible. Even through centuries of separation, colonization, and cultural erasure, the African spirit survived. You see it in Grenadian music, in the rhythm of the drums. You hear it in the stories, the resistance, the rituals. You feel it in the boldness of Caribbean politics, where leaders like Maurice Bishop once dared to dream of a people-centered revolution, rooted in justice and sovereignty. And now, Grenada's leader is tracing that lineage all the way back home. That's powerful because it means we're entering a new season, one where Africa and the Caribbean are no longer looking at each other through the lens of loss, but through the lens of legacy.
The Ghanaian people in the room, you say Akwaba, welcome to the Ghanaian family. All right, Prime Minister, welcome to the podium. You may now deliver your feature address.
Akwaba it is. Akwaba, Akwaba, Akwaba.
Now listen, when he said Akan, I almost jumped out of my seat because let me tell you, the Akan people, we don't come to play. No, we are one of the largest and most influential ethnic groups in Ghana and across West Africa, frankly. We're made up of several subgroups: Asante, Fanti, Ekriapim, Achim, Bono, and the list goes on and on. And each of us carries centuries of culture, resistance, and royalty in our blood. The Asante Kingdom, for example, that was one of the most sophisticated pre-colonial empires in all of Africa. A centralized government, a strong military, a standing gold reserve, diplomacy, strategy, wealth. The golden stool, sacred, symbolic, untouchable. It represents the very soul of the Asante people. Not a person, no, not a crown, the soul. That's why in 1900, when the British had the audacity to demand the golden stool, it wasn't just seen as an insult, it was war. And it was Ya Asantua, the fearless queen mother of Ijusu, who rose up, rallied the chiefs, and led the resistance. She didn't just defend a stool, she defended a civilization. And though the British had guns and troops, it was her spirit and the spirit of the golden stool that won. A victory not just of battle, but of identity. Akan people have always understood power, but not just political power, spiritual power, communal power, symbolic power. We live by proverbs. We honor our ancestors. We believe in matrilineal inheritance. Yes, power through the mother's line. We speak Twi. We wear kente. We name our children based on the day they were born because we believe that names carry destiny. And our cultural influence, it's global. You see it everywhere. Adinkra symbols are now tattooed on skin and printed on fashion runways. Kente is worn at graduations across the diaspora, from New York to London to the Caribbean itself. But it all started here in Akan land. So when Dickon Mitchell says, I am Akan, he's not just stating an ethnic group. He's stepping into an identity that carries weight, history, and dignity. He's joining a lineage that includes kings, queens, warriors, poets, priests, resistance leaders, and now a Caribbean prime minister. And let's not forget, the Akan were among those most heavily targeted during the transatlantic slave trade. Our ancestors were captured and shipped from the shores of Elmina and Cape Coast to places like Barbados, Jamaica, and yes, Grenada. That means this moment isn't random. It's ancestral. It's a full circle moment, not just for Dickon Mitchell, but for all the descendants of Africa still searching for home. Now, my people, let's not get it twisted, right? This moment is bigger than a DNA test. This isn't about Ancestry.com. No, this is about ancestral accountability. Because when a sitting Caribbean head of state takes the stage in front of African leaders, Caribbean officials, investors, and the press and declares that I am a Khan, that's not just a personal revelation. That's a political statement. It's cultural reckoning. And that's a call to the diaspora. Because here's the truth. For far too long, the Africa-Caribbean relationship has been mostly symbolic. We sing about unity. We speak of shared roots. We hold cultural festivals. But then what? The trade numbers don't reflect it. The flights don't connect us. The policies don't support it. And often, even the people don't feel it. But in this moment, we saw something different. We saw what real connection can look like. We saw what happens when the past isn't just remembered but reclaimed. Because let's be honest, for many in the Caribbean, Africa has always felt close, but just out of reach. The stories were broken. The surnames were stolen. The villages erased. People were told they came from somewhere in West Africa, but never knew where. Now, technology is changing that, right? And leaders like Dickon Mitchell are showing the way, not just through tests and speeches, but through relationship. And let's be clear, Africa needs this just as much as the Caribbean does. Because if Africa is going to rise politically, economically, spiritually, then the diaspora must be part of that blueprint, not as guests, but as partners, as returnees, as bridge builders, as family. Now, my people, let's keep it real, because moments like this, yes, they feel good, they stir pride, they make headlines, sometimes they even go viral. But here's the danger. If we're not careful, they stay there. We clap, we repost, we hashtag, and then nothing changes. No new policies, no student exchange programs, no direct flights, no joint ventures, just vibes and pretty speeches. But this right here, what Dickon Mitchell just did, is too important to let it fade. Because what this moment really offers us is a question. Will we show up? Will the diaspora take this as a cue to return, not just for tourism and jollof rice, but to rebuild, reinvest, and reimagine a shared future? And will African nations do the work to make that return worth it? Because here's the truth. It's not enough to say you're welcome home if the systems aren't in place to receive us. So if Ghana and other African nations want to turn symbolic returns into sustainable futures, here's what has to happen. Number one, citizenship pathways, not just honorary, but legally recognized routes for those with traceable lineage. Number two, diaspora investment incentives for entrepreneurs, creatives, and professionals who want to build businesses, buy property, or start initiatives back home. And number three, education and cultural exchanges. Let Grenadian students study in Accra. Let Ghanaian teachers teach in St. George's. Let our young people see each other not as strangers, but as siblings. And then direct transportation links, and this is important. Because how are we calling each other family when it takes 3 flights and a 20-hour layover to get from Accra to Grenada? And beyond governments, we, the people, also have work to do. We've got to challenge the narratives we inherited, to unlearn the lie that Africa is backwards or that the Caribbean is disconnected. We've got to build real relationships, not just through ceremonies, but through collaboration. Because, my people, here's what's at stake. If we get this right, we can rewrite the story of the Atlantic from a highway of slavery to a bridge of solidarity. If we get this right, the descendants of those once sold can become the architects of a new Black global economy. If we get this right, our shared pain can give birth to something more powerful, shared power, but only if we move with intention. My people, moments like this remind us of something we too often forget, that history lives in our blood, that we are not just descendants of survivors, we are descendants of empires, of thinkers, of builders, of rebels, of royalty. When Prime Minister Dickon Mitchell traced his roots to the Akan, he didn't just rediscover where he came from. He reminded us where we all come from. And more importantly, where we still have the power to go. Because the transatlantic slave trade tried to sever us. It tried to disconnect Grenada from Ghana, Jamaica from Nigeria, Barbados from Benin. It scattered us across oceans, stripped our names, our languages, our rituals. But what it could never do was break the bond. That's why centuries later, the DNA still speaks. That's why our spirits still recognize each other. That's why the drum still calls across time, across water, across pain. So now the question is, what will we do with this reconnection? Will we return into rebuilding? Will we turn lineage into leadership? Will we turn shared ancestry into shared strategy? Because, yes, this is the real Pan-African project. Not just flags and festivals, but the fusion of Black power across continents. A Caribbean prime minister tracing his roots to Ghana shouldn't just be a headline. It should be a blueprint, a call to action, a signal that the time for emotional reconnection is now. And so is the time for economic cooperation, political coordination, and cultural healing. So to Prime Minister Dickon Mitchell, Akwaba, welcome home. Now let's build something that lasts. My people, I want to hear from you. What did this moment mean to you? Do you believe that we're entering a new era of African Diaspora unity? And what would it take for us to finally move as one people across many shores? Drop your thoughts below and let's have a real conversation together. And as always, like, comment, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. That's it for today's show. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Sandra Babu-Boateng, and until next time, take care. Hey you! Thanks so much for watching this episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe and join the family. Also, visit face2faceafrica.com for your daily news and updates on what's going on within the global Black community so you can stay informed.